Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, January 26, 2021. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? Sport coat, man. Looking good.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to gussy it up every now and then, just when the mood strikes me right, makes me feel like less trash. I like knowing that I'm trash, but putting like a fancy coat of paint on the trashness. You know what I mean? I just like to do it every now and then. Makes me feel
Yeah.
good. Your
It's like
jacket
in,
is way more rad than mine, though.
yeah, it's like white trash and sport coat. It's like getting chicken tenders at a Del Frisco's or something. It's just chicken tenders, but yeah, it's like nice chicken tenders.
Yeah, it's fancy chicken tenders. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
we're both wearing jackets just so everybody knows. I think because me and him both live in Southern California, and guys, we're fucking freezing to death out here the last couple of days. It's been like 54, 55 degrees, y'all. That's crazy. We're
It was
fucking we're
it was 41
cold.
this morning. It's like yeah, it's in the 40s.
Yeah, in the morning. But yes,
Yeah.
when I first, it is insane to me how quickly I lost any tolerance to. I didn't have very much tolerance for cold anyway because I grew up in the South my whole life. But still, we moved to California in January of 2017. And when we first got here, it was like 50 something degrees at nighttime. And I remember when we first got here, I was wearing like shorts and a t-shirt walking to the gas station and stuff, and I was laughing at all the people with their North Faces on and stuff. I was like, what? You just need an excuse to wear the North Face, like you're never gonna be able to wear it otherwise. But now, like 4 years later or whatever, it's like, oh no, I'm fucking freezing too. Like I never was good with the cold, being from Tennessee, but I can't
hmm
handle it at all now.
Yeah, man. I always love that about California. Whatever you want to wear makes sense. Like whatever you feel
Right.
like wearing, it's all fine. You want to wear shorts, that's fine. You want to wear a winter coat, that makes sense. It's roughly in the middle. Whatever you want to wear. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're young people in California, if anybody out there is from Tennessee or has ever been to Bonnaroo, but you never really been to California, there's kind of a Bonnaroo aesthetic going on pretty much every day of the year with like young people in California. They dress the way like we do when we go to Bonnaroo and want to let our freak flag fly. That's just how they look all the time. So let's get into the show here. We've got trying to turn my gain down here. People are telling me my mic's a little hot. Sorry about that. We got producer Matt with us, as always, behind the scenes, pulling the strings. This is Evening Skews. Got a great show for you tonight. We're going to dive into the comical absurdity that is the U.S. stock market, and in the even more absurd subject, one of Mark's very favorites, all things QAnon, a little later. And on that note, we will be having a conversation with Marley, Clements, and Bayan Joonam, who are the filmmakers behind ViceTV's forthcoming documentary QAnon, The Search for Q, which actually premieres this very night at 10 p.m. Eastern. So we're really looking forward to that. But first, as always, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, play the graphic. Please. Tonight's DD, he's gone but not forgotten. Donald J. Trump. Now, why is he our dumbass once again tonight? Well, because this was a man anointed by God, chosen to serve his kingdom, right? We all know that. No one argues that. But somewhere along the way, he made a critical error in judgment that cost him both the White House and the favor of the Lord. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll let noted right-wing lunatic Scott Lively explain where Trump went wrong. Matt, play the clip, please.
If Donald Trump was, as I believe, God's man in the White House for 4 years, why did God not preserve him? Because if God had given him favor, nothing that mankind could have done could have removed him from that office, could have prevented him.
They tried for 4 years.
They tried for 4 years. And yet the one thing that he did during that time that that would virtually guarantee God's favor from being removed was to put his own personal stamp of approval on behavior that God condemns in the harshest possible terms in the Bible, which is specifically male homosexuality.
Ding, ding, ding. There it is. How many of y'all had wieners and butts on the bingo card, right? You knew. It always comes down to the wieners and the butts, Mark, every time.
Ever since Sodom and Gomorrah, man. It's like first God burned down a whole town and turned Lot's wife into salt, and now he just took Donald Trump's job away. God's toned it down the last couple thousand years.
Yeah. Also, just noted friend of the LGBTQIA plus community, Donald Trump, right? Like known worldwide for his support of the queer movement, all things queer. Donald Trump is for it, and everybody knows it. Like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? But
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he's paid a bunch of women to mess around with each other. That's like that.
yeah, peeing on each other and stuff. Yeah, we all know it.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, and we've talked about this before on the show, they have this thing on the far right sometimes where it's like, it almost sounds to me like they're gonna actually make sense or land on the right thing. Do you know what I mean? Like they can sound at first like, holy shit, they're about to actually become self-aware, figure this out, and then at the end they just veer off wildly into lunatic homophobia. And what I mean is, like, when he starts out saying, like, listen, if Donald Trump was truly chosen by the Lord, then nothing could have kept him from winning again. And I'm sitting here listening like, yes, exactly, right? Like all you people that have called him God's chosen president for the past 4 years or whatever, listen to that. Like if he was, then how did he lose, right? Like that part makes sense to me. And then he gets to his explanation for it, and it's like, well, there it is.
It's God apparently has very, very specific superpowers. It's kind of like how the Green Lantern can't fight stuff that's yellow, or Aquaman can't come on land. So God can make Trump win, but he can't make Trump hate gay people more. Right? That's outside of his ability. He's like, okay, well, that makes sense because he has free will. But if he has free will, do the voters not have free will to not choose him? Like, how exactly does this work? You know, like what are the mechanics of?
Buddy, you tell me, and we'll both know. But a lot of these right-wing religious types, they're reeling right now, okay? Because they've said, hey, God has declared it. He hath foretold Donald Trump is the president from now into the future. He's going to win for sure because God said it was so, and then that didn't happen. How are they handling that? Not particularly well. Our first honorable mention, Matt, you could play the clip we got, the next one we got lined up there.
God hates what? He didn't say he hates discord. He hates he hates you that are being a troll. He hates you that are attacking your Christian brothers and sisters.
God hates people who roast me on the internet.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're false. They're wrong. Excuse me. How do you know? Because it hasn't come to pass. How do you know that it hasn't come to pass? First of all, the president was reelected. Let's get that clear. Second of all, he was given a second term based on reelection. Well, he's not serving it now because it was stolen by thieves.
Again, how? Like you were just saying about God and his powers, his superpowers, whatever. How could that ever possibly happen? That it was stolen from him by us, godless heathens on the left in this country. It's like we said, like they call us fucking weak and ineffectual pussies and that type of thing, but then we can somehow, subvert God and we can steal from the Lord that's the strength of our devilry. You know what I mean? How the hell does that work? But also him going on that thing like, no, who he really hates? If you talk shit about me, God hates you. He hates you that said mean things to me on the internet. They're reeling, Mark.
What he's mad about us. He basically he whipped it out and put it out there that that God had told him Trump was going to get reelected. So he appointed himself as a prophet who had foretold the future and then was wrong. So now he's saying that the people making fun on the internet are actually the devil, and he was right all along. But it's like, I mean, we're going to get to it with the Q stuff later, but this is what happens when prophecies don't come true. Is people move the goalposts, and they're still right. They're still right, Trey. They can't be wrong. God controls all things except this specific election theft. He could not stop that. He controls everything else, but not Joe Biden's team.
All right, our next honorable mention, they've got a plan for how to handle us on the left, just so y'all know, okay? They're not caught unawares. They know how to handle our criticisms of them. And, Matt, you can play the next clip whenever you got it.
We're getting attacked because you love Trump and you're a cult for Trump. What happens is you cannot back away from engaging in the debate. This is where you run to the roar. And if they want to call me a homophobe, I say, oh, so you're a heterophobe, are you? Just turn it back in the other direction. And so you've got this bias against heterosexual people. You can't disengage from the debate just because they're being mean or just because they're saying things about you.
Deploying the classic I am rubber and you are glue approach out here. Just, no, I know you are, but what am I? Turning it around. What can we possibly do against that?
Yeah, I mean, I am a heterophobe, Trey. My wife scares me. I guess they're flipping out over this week because Biden overturned the ban on trans people in the military, which is like so funny to me. I mean, the whole idea of you're talking in all the military, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen trans people, a couple hundred, maybe. But it's like, we're so scared to let them in bathrooms. They seem like we should put them on the front lines of special forces if they're that dangerous, right?
Right. Well, it's like, I remember Chris Rock saying about don't ask, don't tell when that was still a thing, or he was just like, it's like, why would you want to stop any of them from fighting? He's like, let anybody fight that wants to fight. He's like, I ain't fighting. Like, if they'll fight instead of me having to fight, let them fight. I don't care how you feel about them. And that's sort of like, even if you are a bigot, I don't know why you care about them putting their lives on the line for your freedom. Maybe it makes you feel like a dickhead at the end of the day or something, but yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, first of all, we shouldn't be sending anyone to Syria, but if as a country we've decided to send some people, I'm not going. So whoever else wants to fucking sign up. Right.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. You know what else doesn't make any sense, Mark? The word China, especially when it comes in front of the word virus. This is our next honorable mention. Maria Bartiromo. Butchered that. We'll explain what I mean. They're upset about this. Matt, play the clip whenever you got it.
Well, I can tell you right now, President Biden did another executive order today, and in that order, he is banning the term China virus. Have you ever heard anything so ridiculous and extraordinary? Meanwhile, I mean, seriously, this is happening.
Yeah.
I sympathize with Rand Paul there, laughing, trying to figure out what the fuck she's talking about.
Right.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but Joe Biden does not have the authority to keep you from saying the word China virus.
Right.
I just said it. There's no cops kicking on my door. There's
you
no
get put in the gulag, Mark, if you don't watch it. Saying all them banned words, China virus. Also, I felt like, maybe it's just me, but I felt like Rand Paul had a little bit of like a Jimmy Stewart thing going on at the end of that clip. It was like, yeah, it is. It is odd, isn't it? Like, it sounded like that's how he was about to sound. Maybe that's just
maybe his neighbor punched him so hard he talks funny now. Let's hope.
All right, the last honorable mention we have tonight. Anybody who thought the MyPillow guy could ever have a cool girlfriend, he wants to make sure you know that that's not true. Matt, put up the screen grab there. He's upset over the accusations that he could have dated someone as, successful, funny, and cool as Jane Krakowski from 30 Rock. This is a weird thing, Mark. Like, the Daily Mail reported that Jane Krakowski and the MyPillow guy had been together. Yes, less than 5 days after the Daily Mail turned heads by reporting romance between MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell and 30 Rock actress Jane Krakowski, he's filed a defamation suit in New York federal court. Lindell lodged claims on Monday. I mean, what's he so upset about here? Like, hell, this makes him look good. But also, what even is this, Mark? Like, where did this come from?
A made-up tabloid story. Like, when I read the story for the first day it was out, it's like there was one anonymous source who says she's Jane Krakowski's neighbor, right? And then both parties denied ever meeting each other, and that was the whole story. So then Krakowski just reiterates, I don't know what this is about. And Mike Lindell apparently filed this suit because I'm not quite sure how it's defaming him to say he was cool enough to hang out with Jane Krakowski.
Right, exactly, yeah.
He's probably filing it first before she did, so it didn't humiliate him, or her be like putting in court papers. I would never go anywhere near this huge fucking loser. This guy who's literally a recovering crackhead who just tried to overthrow the government. Yeah, so I think that's what's happening there.
I said that was our last honorable mention, but we actually have one more. It's much more general. We're going to use this to send it over to you, Mark, as you take me and our viewers through one of our first subjects of the day. Our last honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is anybody who thinks the American economy actually makes sense. This shit is going crazy out here, and it all revolves around a mall video game store and
like
Reddit and chicken tenders, and all those things are bringing the American economy, shaking it to its foundation. Mark, please explain what the fuck is going on with this shit.
In 5 years, when we're all bow hunting rats to cook over trash can fires, and your kid asks you what happens, be like, okay, well, some kids on Reddit decided to fleece some billionaires using shares of GameStop stock. So basically what happened was a bunch of people on Reddit. Okay, do you want to roll the Yahoo Finance clip, Matt? That might actually make more sense to start with let an expert news story explain it.
I want to shift our focus back over to what we've been watching play out in one of the most epic short squeezes of all time. GameStop shares once again spiking as much as 85% in today's session as we continue to watch that play out in what is an incredible story tying together quite a few things, including some big bets on Wall Street with some big bets made in a Reddit forum. But when you look at the fundamentals, a lot of people pointing out this company is not expected to turn a profit for years. And right now, the valuation is beyond what you would describe as anything supported by fundamentals. So how crazy is GameStop's run here?
I've been on Wall Street for over 20 years, and I cannot think of anything that I've seen that is nearly as insane as what's going on with the GameStop right now. I mean, you know, the stock price is going one way, and the fundamentals are going the complete opposite. So this is truly insane, quite frankly. Yeah, I'm not really sure that anything that's going on right now, as far as I can tell, is illegal. I mean, there's no sort of, non-public information, as far as I can tell, that's being traded. I mean, this is just speculation. If you want to gamble, go to the casino. I mean, this is this is just not. This is not what the markets are for.
All right, so a couple of things to know. A short squeeze, my understanding is when you a bunch of people have short sold GameStop. All right, there's actually been a debate about how valuable GameStop is. GameStop, as you might imagine, isn't making a lot of money right now because they're a store in malls that sells video games. No one's going to malls in a pandemic, and people can now download the video games online. So their whole business model is a tad fucked, right?
Right.
But they still have some valuable assets. So there's actually been a disagreement about like where GameStop should be valued. But the funniest part to me of that clip was while the 30 seconds that guy was talking, on the screen it showed the stock price go from $91 to $102. That's how fast it went up. I think today it closed at $145 a share. And a bunch of a big hedge fund, especially one big hedge fund, shorted the shit out of GameStop stock. So they're waiting for it to pay off for the stock to go down. Every little bit it goes up, fucks this. I think every $11 it goes up, fucks that company out of $1 billion, which is hilarious. So a bunch of people on Reddit agreed with this investor by the name of Michael Burry, who was the autistic guy played by Christian Bale in The Big Short. If you've seen that movie,
yeah.
So this guy bought a bunch of GameStop stock betting against the short, and a bunch of Redditors got on his side and decided to pull together and start buying stock. Once you do that, it causes a chain reaction called a short squeeze, where the people had short sold now have to buy GameStop stock to hedge against their own bets, which in turn drives the stock price up further. And it's sort of like a death spiral for these people. All right. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. But the way I'm looking at it, there's been a lot of instances over the years of a group of internet trolls, like from 4chan or whatever, successfully brigading some kind of, pretty harmless internet poll or contest where Mountain Dew is like, and I'm trying to remember. I'm not saying this is literally what it was, but it was pretty close. Mountain Dew left it up to the internet to choose the name of their next new flavor, and the internet chose Hitler did nothing wrong or something like that. Or Pitbull left it up to the internet to decide where his next show would be on tour, and they picked a rural part of Alaska, which, by the way, Pitbull went to rural Alaska and rocked the place, which I always respected. But yeah,
I think the British Navy let the internet name a ship a couple years ago, and it came out Bodie McBoatface.
Bodie McBoatface. That's what I was about to bring up. Yes. So like we're familiar with things like that happening, and this I think is like. It's like the Wall Street version of that, right? It's like the internet coalescing around this ultimate troll move.
Yes.
But the difference is in this case, it's amounted to literally billions of dollars that people have lost. And by the way, I could not give a fuck less because it's only been lost by like hedge fund guys and stuff like that who were just, gambling on this Wall Street Harry Potter voodoo bullshit that is, shorts and squeezes and all this stuff you're talking about. So I don't care at all that they've lost all this money, but it's billions and billions of dollars that these internet trolls have amounted to, right? It's fucking crazy.
There are two ways in which this is funny. One, this is the way the stock market works all the time. It's just the people who used to do the fucking are getting fucked, and they're really, really mad about it. Because they're people they're getting fucked by. These people on this group on the Wall Street Bets forum is led by a dude whose poster name is Deep Fucking Value, who goes by Roaring Kitty on YouTube. You got a picture of this guy, Matt? Look at this guy. He's amazing. This guy has made hundreds of thousands of dollars and cost a hedge fund by the name of Melvin so far in the neighborhood of $10 billion, I think.
Look at him with his chicken tender. Yeah. They're all about tendies on this Wall Street Bets subreddit. This guy, this dude brought American markets to their knees. That guy, like genuinely. Yeah. Insane timeline we live in, man.
just to understand their slang, tendies is a shorthand they use for money because chicken tenders is the food of both paupers and kings. All right. So after this bet paid off and he won, he made a 7-hour YouTube video where he is bragging, of course, on himself because he's fucking awesome, and dipping chicken tenders in champagne. I think Matt has a clip of this.
Cheers, everybody! Cheers! Welcome! Happy Friday! I hope y'all had a nice ass week! What a crazy day, a crazy week. Welcome everybody bumping tonight. Let's get after it on a Friday night. Let's go! Holy shit. Oh, can I go? Is there even let me try to read this. Let me start. Whoa. Oh, damn, what a day.
People have lost billions of dollars, man. And this dude, I love this guy. I'm a big fan of this guy.
Look, all these psycho. The guy from Michael Burry's made like a 1,500% return on his investment too. Like they're not mad about Michael Burry making his couple $1 billion. They're mad about these plebes on Reddit figuring out how to rig their game that they're supposed to have rigged already. If these guys could figure out a way to move the market to make their bet pay off, they absolutely would. Like if they could, say, do some industrial espionage to report that there's like accounting fraud at GameStop, they would make the stock go down to make their bet pay off. They would absolutely do it because these guys, all they had to do was figure out they could day trade and buy some call options for these shares. It brought a fucking hedge fund to the knees. Let's walk through this math real quick because this is first of all, right now GameStop shares are some of the most valuable commodities on planet Earth. And they're trading up there with General Electric and DraftKings the week of the Super Bowl. So I can't even get over how fucking stupid this is. But what drives me crazy about it all is like there's 72 million shares of GameStop being short sold. Only 69 million are in existence. Somehow they created on paper 3 million extra shares to short. This is the legitimate market. This is not the Reddit thread dudes. This is what the market did on its own. So I don't give a shit about any of them. Short selling's stupid anyway. I really don't understand what benefit it has to the economy or society at large. So I am happy they're all getting fucked and losing their shirts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's move into another very dumb subject, one that comes up a lot on here, one that Mark loves to talk about. You know it, you love it, QAnon. Mark, it continues to become even more and more mainstream, right?
It's gotten more mainstream since the Capitol riot.
Right. This is noted Fox News dipshit Tucker Carlson giving his thoughts on how people should feel about the QAnon theory. Matt, play it when you got it.
Threat is a forbidden idea. It's something called QAnon.
How many people in the country have been marinated in these conspiracy theories, QAnon craziness, and it is frightening.
Ooh, Mr. Tom Friedman thinks this is all pretty frightening. Government has every right to tell you what to do. Controlling the behavior of citizens is one of the basic prerogatives of any organized society. It's why we have it. Government can try to prevent you from committing murder or rape or from speeding or jaywalking. That's all allowed. It's legitimate. But no democratic government can ever tell you what to think. Your mind belongs to you. It is yours and yours alone. Once politicians attempt to control what you believe, they are no longer politicians. They are, by definition, dictators. And if they succeed in controlling what you believe, you are no longer a citizen. You are not a free man. You are a slave. So yes, Tom Friedman, this is frightening. It's everywhere all of a sudden. No one is pushing back. Instead, they have almost every one of them, join the mob of censors, hysterics, and Jacobin destroyers, all working on behalf of entrenched power to take total control of everything.
Okay, so, all right. But to use a different example, if you meet someone who believes the earth is flat and you say to them, no, it isn't flat, you are a dictator now. You're like the thought police or whatever. Like, because what he's talking about, it's true that, yeah, the government can't dictate the opinions you hold and stuff like that. But when it comes to things that, like, literally are not true, someone telling you, no, in the real world, this is not true. That's not fucking oppression. You're not being persecuted. There's nothing dictatorial about that.
Yeah, I mean, the minute the government starts rounding people up just for watching cute YouTube videos, then I'll be like, okay, maybe Tucker has a point, but that's not fucking happening. But it's like, this comes on the heels of like, so the Texas GOP tweeted out, "We are the storm" meme. Arizona Republican Party did the exact same thing. The Hawaiian Republican Party, which, to be fair, is probably like a couple dozen people mad about plastic bag bans. And Republicans don't run a lot of shit in Hawaii. But they tweeted out a thread defending QAnon people, saying that they're just patriots who really love America. Yeah, content warning. This guy, then to defend themselves, they tweeted out this guy whose account handle is 6666 official. So you know it's going to be legit. Turned out he's a Holocaust denier. And so you got the screen grab what this guy looked like. This is the guy they posted to defend themselves. Here he is with a Hitler mustache from a YouTube video he made called "Girls Won't Date Me Because of Feminism." It's part 2 of 19, Trey. He made 19 videos about women dating because of feminism. And this is the guy the Republican Party of Hawaii is trotting out to defend them from charges of, being saying Q is correct or whatever. They're just well-meaning patriots. These aren't well-meaning. These are people who showed up to the inauguration to watch people be beheaded for no cause. They are not. They're not just friendly neighborhood Americans. It's absolutely crazy, man.
Yes. So with that in mind, let's get our guest out here in just a second. So we got 2 guests tonight. They're working together on a project that they're very excited about. We're excited to tell you about. But let's talk about them individually for a second. Marley Clements is a documentary filmmaker based in Washington, D.C. Marley spent nearly a decade working in various capacities at international think tanks and advocacy organizations. And following the 2016 election, Marley co-wrote and produced the 2018 hit documentary Active Measures, which has to do with Russia's attack on the 2016 election. If you've never seen that, I highly recommend it. The shit is fucking crazy.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah, please check that out, Active Measures. Joining Marley tonight is Bayan Joonam, who's an award-winning filmmaker who grew up in the Middle East. After his bus stop was attacked by a suicide bomber, it galvanized Bayan's commitment to pursuing work that addresses ideological divides. Since then, Bayan became the partner and head of production for Soul Pancake between 2011 and 2018 and led the development and programming of 50 original series with over 1 billion views online, won awards for his television franchises, and has continued on from there. Now, the two together, Marley and Bayan, have a new project coming out tonight, a documentary that premieres on ViceTV this very evening at 10 p.m. Eastern on the subject we've just been talking about. It's called QAnon, The Search for Q, and I believe producer Matt has the trailer for it. Right, Matt?
QAnon. Satanic rituals? Drinking children's blood? Adrenochrome? Where did they come from?
QAnon is the single greatest information operation in the history of humanity.
How responsible are they for the attack on the Capitol?
Should Q be classified as a domestic terrorism threat?
And where are they headed next?
They will excuse and encourage any amount of violence against their political enemies.
All right, everybody, please welcome to the show Marley, Clements, and Bayan, Joonam. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. We're excited you're here. So let's start with a simple question. How can you most accurately describe Q and what it is? Is this a conspiracy theory? Is this a cult? Is this a political movement? Is it all of the above? What even is Q?
Yeah, I mean, the best way I could describe it is that it's gamified radicalization. You know, I think we're gamified conspiracy theories where we've seen a lot of these ideas before. It's just the format that Q had delivered it was something that allowed the audience to kind of become involved, make their own interpretations, and become like an active part of putting the story together. And that's what made it, I think, interesting and just downright fun for a lot of people.
It's like Pokemon Go, but for ruining democracy.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. It's like, because it is even like a guy the first guy you talked to, the musician who's a buddy of Bayan's, I believe. He brings up how it's a fun game to play, right? He talked about that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that for a very long time, you know, it was part of a culture on the boards where people like to kind of do these online puzzles, right? Like Cicada 3301 was another really popular one that was, you know, better produced, but ultimately had the same kind of end game where people spent, like 17 hours at a time trying to decode these things. And so that's that culture that it came from. This just kind of was the mainstreamification of that.
So this is like there's been like viral marketing campaigns and stuff for like movies like Cloverfield and things like that, where they put the little breadcrumbs out there on the internet for people to kind of decipher in the clues and stuff. You're saying that Q is just a more nefarious version of that. It's the same thing that appeals to people about this, you know, global political conspiracy.
Absolutely. That is very much sort of the same thing. And there's actually a lot of people who are sort of designers and the original people behind ARGs, the augmented reality games, which is what you're talking about there.
Right.
They've all come out, and a lot of people have come out and said, you know, this is really what this is. This is obviously the gamification. This is the ARG. They're using our same exact plans, and we recognize this because, and we know what it's going to do to people. It's designed to make people go, you know, crazy.
Yeah, for people that don't know, like Q's actual posts are not like the core. They're usually pretty vague, except for the first one that said that Hillary was about to be arrested. A lot of it's sort of like refrigerator magnet poetry or like you know, fortune cookie kind of stuff. And the people who do the work of trying to figure out what it means are called the drops are called breadcrumbs. The people who try to figure out what it means are called bakers. That's right. Is my understanding correct? And then from there it filters out. Everyone's sort of choosing their own adventures about what Q is or what it's not. And the only thing they agree is that Democrats are evil and we should all be murdered. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like you're describing kind of like this question and answer format, right? Or like an AMA almost, because there's a level of engagement that's happening with the bakers and the anons where it's like, you know, Q will put out a cryptic post or a question. All these bakers are competing to come up with the most, you know, oftentimes outrageous interpretations. And then Q will be like, yo, like shout out to this baker right here. nice decode on that one. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's the guy. And they go and follow that guy. And so for a couple of weeks, he's like the primo baker, the Q approved baker. And so that'll have like, it's this constant competition, much like the Chans, to just make, engaging content.
So, all right, I got a couple of questions that I definitely want to get to. First of all, if you guys are just joining us, we're talking with Marley, Clements, and Bayan, Joonam, the filmmakers of QAnon, The Search for Q, a documentary premiering on ViceTV this very evening. First thing, I know that you guys get into in the documentary somewhere how this is not just a right-wing dalliance anymore, right? Like it's not confined to just the right wing. And I know this is anecdotal, but I told the story on a previous episode. I met a lady through my wife who was a the only thing we talked about was politics, and she was extremely left-leaning when I met her like 3 years ago. Hated Donald Trump, hated all that, very much identified as a liberal. And now, as of today, she is fully, completely gone down the QAnon rabbit hole. She buys into all of it. So I think a lot of people have the tendency to look at this as just a right-wing thing, but that's not really the case, is it?
It's really not anymore, especially. I think originally, sort of out the gate, they came in with mostly pro-Trump things, and so that really brought in the MAGA crowd. But over the last year, we've seen this shift that's been just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's sort of horseshoe theory playing out in real life, where the far left and far right ends meet politically. And we see it especially at the beginning of the pandemic. Everyone sort of locked in their houses, unsure of how to handle themselves, what to be doing, scared by this disease, and out of a job, and just forced to stare at screens all day. And so a bunch of documentaries came out that Q promoted that did a lot of like pandemic, brought in a lot of the wellness community through anti-vax stuff, and it really spread to the left there through Save Our Children marches that were all
right. Okay. I was about to ask, I thought, because just from the lady I'm talking about, I met her through my wife. Me and my wife have kids. She has a kid. That's how we met. It was like a parent circle. She's a mom. And I was going to ask you how much of that, because there's this huge element of QAnon that has to do with protecting and saving the children, right? And I think that is a huge factor for a lot of people that get sucked into it, because it has to do with kids being harmed, and so they're more susceptible to it. Did you find that to be the case? Is that a significant factor for people?
Yeah, exactly. I think like what you're alluding to is kind of what I call like the truism of QAnon, because at around pandemic, it became this thing about being like, well, we're just against child trafficking and against sacrificing children, and it's a really hard thing to sit across from somebody and not support that. Like that is something that, everybody with a conscience should support. So it became kind of the soft pill to bring people into QAnon ideology, where you come in with the good intention of wanting to stop child trafficking, wanting to save children, but you leave thinking that, now there's a global cabal of elites who are, using these children for, blood sacrifice rituals and that kind of thing. And so it kind of becomes a way to prey on good intentions to then move into kind of a more radicalized form of thinking.
Right.
Do you, for the record, I think I speak for all of us, we are against child trafficking here on the Evening Skews.
No problem. Absolutely. A lot of things should be done about it. I wish all the people who were out marching for Save Our Children were doing something about child trafficking in earnest.
Yeah. Right. I've seen like actual organizations that fight sex trafficking talk about how QAnon's a problem for them because it sabotages real efforts to like change stuff. My question is because Q's sort of peripheral to QAnon. Let me back up for a second. The wild thing about Q to me and who he is that there are a bunch of Anon posters on these forums who like LARP as like different sort of undercover agents in different various parts of the government. For whatever reason, Q is the one who became like a big meme, right? And it's wild to me because he couldn't have had this. Whoever started it could not have had this kind of intent or foreseen this kind of impact. He was just some guy who was probably high on Adderall and Mountain Dew Code Red at 4 a.m. who made a post about Hillary's about to get arrested, and then logs back in 4 days later and he's created a cult.
It's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane to me, and I can't. It's so far out beyond sight anymore. Like I always wonder. I mean, I find myself wondering if it matters who Q is, because would QAnon stop if we found out it was like some truck driver named Frank from Albuquerque? Like, does it?
No, I don't think it
Right.
I mean, people have different takes on this. In fact, we kind of have different takes on this. But for me, I think that it does matter who Q is, because I think that whoever is behind this is specifically targeting people to put this disinformation in their heads and in the world and bring it into the streets. And so I think they know what they're doing, and it's certainly a threat to our democracy. On January 6th, it's radicalized a large group of people. And so whoever's behind it, I think, should be held accountable for it. But there are different takes on that.
I mean, my personal conspiracy theory is that if the CIA is not in control of it by now, they're incompetent.
Yeah, I felt
It's a
like
good
that
point.
times.
I mean, it's a good point. It's kind of like one of those things where it was convenient to ignore it for a very long time, and now, like, how could you, right? Like, how can anybody ignore what a huge impact a bunch of posts on a message board have made, whether or not people were visiting the message board itself? And I think that's really interesting. And I think that, look, if you really look at what Q has done, which was, prey on this type of disenfranchisement, you're right to point out that the CIA is probably, in control of it at this point in some capacity, because this is right out of the US government's playbook. When you look at like different countries around the world that we've caused insurgencies in and then, just had the ability to peace out of, this isn't that much different.
So, all right. And I know part of this is just like personal bias, just the way that any one person perceives any one theory, I guess. But what's so wild about Q to me is that, like, I remember when I was like a college-aged pothead, I saw loose change, and I was like, holy shit, 9/11 was an inside job for a day or two. Until I talked to some of my friends, and they were like, no, it wasn't, and here's why. But I'm saying, like, that, what am I trying to say? When I first found out about Q, Mark explained Q to me, and then I looked it up, and like, dude, we're talking about like cannibals, blood drinking, fucking vampires. It's just a global pedophilic cabal of people that prey on children and literally drink their blood and stuff. And it just, like, to me, it just sounds right off the top. It just sounds, clearly made up, right? Whereas other conspiracy theories that have floated around, I look at those and I'm like, I could see how somebody could believe that. I know it's not true, but I can wrap my head around that. But this one seems to be just so far out there that it makes it wild to me that this is the one that has gained this kind of mainstream status. Like, how do you, through all your, making the film and talking to people, do you guys have anything to say about that, the sheer craziness and how it's worked, I
mean, I think that, a lot of the craziest parts of it are what's appealing to people. That is going to be promoted through the algorithms, and you're going to see that more on social media sites. So you're going to click that more, first of all. But secondly, I mean, as also a college donor who, may have been into loose change for a day or two, right?
Yeah.
I will say that I think that what the difference is here, I've thought about this a lot, that we didn't have, Hillary Clinton wasn't in the Senate retweeting loose change things. She wasn't saying, yes, look further. There weren't validators in our own government that were telling us. There weren't, anybody, legitimate, really. There were a lot of celebs behind that. There was not a huge movement around that. The validators around QAnon have really brought it to an entirely another level, because you can see it everywhere, right? It's former CIA people are on their shows, and bakers, and everywhere within this little ecosystem that they've created for themselves, everyone's saying the same thing. So, you would believe it, including the president, by the way. Trump retweeting them, that's a big one.
Yeah.
The guy, Mike Flynn, who was Obama's chief of military intelligence, took the QAnon oath on the internet.
And that's what a lot of people. I think the question really about Flynn is not a matter of if he's involved; it's a matter of when did he get involved.
Mm.
So we addressed that a little bit. So definitely watch for episode 2 and 3 tomorrow night, because we definitely get into that a little bit.
One thing I learned from your documentary, because like when I like it was like July when I explained what Q was on this show to Trey, and he was like laughing his ass off, because when I explained what adrenochrome was, he was like, that sounds like Monsters Inc. And one thing I learned from your the first episode of y'all's documentary is that like they've adopted that. They're so pop culture savvy. They now say the government made Monsters Inc. as like propaganda for Q. Is that right?
I think it's that they made it. My understanding of that theory is that they made it to. There's a lot of like hidden signals, and that they think the deep state does quite a bit. There's things like, I don't know.
I guess like one of the things is they find like a kernel of truth, something like Project Mockingbird, that shows like the CIA has had influence in Hollywood, and what that theory did was extrapolate that to mean, oh, Monsters Inc. is actually showing us in cartoon form how adrenochrome is extracted. Right?
See,
So,
like, dude, I'm sorry. I don't know how you hear that and don't just crack up laughing at it. Like, I can't wrap my head around it, man.
It's
I know there's plenty of like.
That's the response, right? Like that, and that
Right.
has been the response for like the last 2 years, and I think that dynamic is super interesting, right? It's like kind of like our own immune system, our social immune system at play, being like, this is outrageous, this is so ridiculous, let's laugh at it, and somehow that kind of motivated a whole group of people to just dig their heels in further.
Right.
And I think that's part of the thing we have to think about in de-radicalization, is that all of us have family and friends who have fallen down this, whether that's, someone in the PTA with you or on Facebook, a high school friend or whatever. But, I think really learning to try and not laugh at people and focus on the things
Right.
that we can all agree on. Like, yeah, the government is corrupt. Yes, there are things that need reform. We need to be more active in our civic duties, things like that. Like those parts of Q is really where you could dig in and sort of avoid the crazy town of the rest of it with Q followers. Would be my
Right. So, I mean, yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's very hard for me, but laughing in their face is certainly not going to help the situation. That's definitely true. So, kind of on that note, you guys having done everything you've did, and I want to talk specifically about the film a little bit too in a minute, but what can the rest of us do, to fight Q or whatever? What should we do? What should be the approach? How can we do something about this?
Yeah, one thing that we tried to show also in one of the early segments with JT is, engaging in a real, like, genuine conversation and using critical thinking and the Socratic method, which they're all, primed to do, and really just, in a more compassionate way, but just like kind of gently challenging those ideas. But to be able to do that, that's like earned, that has to be someone who you actually know and you've built a relationship with. And so my biggest piece of advice is like, fight the instinct to like block and cancel people from you.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't want to fucking hear about it anymore, like you've heard enough. Sometimes those folks are just in need of like a lifeline and a tether to reality, and it might not happen like tomorrow or like in one conversation, but over time, like build a friendship. And when things are ridiculous and you think they're ridiculous, like be real, like laugh, be like, that sounds absurd to me. Like that's okay. I don't think it's like you treat them like, oh my God, like these special ones over here. You're just like, use critical thinking and people will respond,
I thought it was a really sort of like your buddy JT, I think was his name, the guy who plays the musician. You didn't really, I mean, you weren't able to change his mind about Q, but you pretty easily changed his mind about the national anthem protest. He saw your point in that. He was like, oh, you just like connected with him. He's like, oh yeah, I see your point. It was like, it was a very touching little bit of outreach, I thought. And he seems like a sweet guy who means well.
Yeah, and I'm glad we were able to start the series out that way, because it was just like, look, everything we've seen on QAnon leads everybody to believe like there's one type of, Anon, or like there's kind of this monolith, and you find like the most outrageous grandma to say that JFK is alive, put that on the news, and then have, fucking Chuck Todd, have Chuck Todd be like, look at these kooky people,
Right.
And so it's just like, we really wanted to, with this film, be like, no, like, let's just look at the more human approach as to why people get involved with this. And then also give people a little bit of a demonstration of being like, hey, like, here's how a dialogue could go, right? With people who disagree, like me and JT disagree on a lot, but, we're able to still listen to one another.
Okay, so listen, let's talk about the actual film for a second. Why don't you guys give us the lowdown on, I know we've already mentioned some of it, but just let everybody know what it's called, where it's at, where they can watch it, when they can watch it. Just give us the details for people who want to check this out.
Sure. So it's QAnon, The Search for Q on ViceTV. It comes out 10 p.m. tonight on ViceTV or on their app. And you can also, the first episode is actually on YouTube now, so you can get a head start there. It'll be tonight, 10 p.m. tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Thursday night, will be the final part at 10 p.m. And there's a sort of I would say the evolution of the show is, we start out looking at the what and who's involved in QAnon, and then go into sort of the origin story, and then who's running it now, and where it goes from here. So lot to unpack over those 3 hours.
Yeah, that feels like an understatement to me. A lot to unpack. I'm very much looking forward to it personally. I'm extremely interested. Mark, you got anything for them before we let our esteemed guests go?
I just want to say I really enjoyed the first episode, which I did enjoy on YouTube, and it's the internal politics of like the Watkins family and who like it's bizarre that these weirdos who these weirdo expats who just don't want to be subject to American libel laws have somehow brought American democracy to the edge of crumbling.
Yeah,
it's fun.
World too. Japan really pushing the fascism there now.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I've been an internet kid for a while, and I think like you guys were talking about the GameStop madness that's happening. So it's just like, look what happens, right? When a message board that nobody wants to pay attention to, like a message board just fucking took a wrecking ball to our political system. And now they're taking a wrecking ball to the economy, because like there is a power to that kind of decentralized or democratized action that we're only now getting to understand through things like Q or GameStop.
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't really make that connection, but you're right.
All right. Well, listen, thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been awesome. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to the doc, QAnon, The Search for Q. Marley, Clements, and Bayan, Joonam, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys. All right. Well, so listen, I hate to overload y'all with documentary talk, but that's not the only documentary coming out today. You guys have heard me talk at length before about the documentary that I produced and was in about universal basic income called Inherent Good. Matt, if you have the graphic for that, if you could put it up, please. You guys have seen it before. Whenever he's got it, but Inherent Good just finally, I know I've been talking about it for months, but it just finally became widely available today on all the major digital platforms. So, Amazon, Apple TV, Fandango, whatever. You can get Inherent Good on any of those now. That's all I wanted to say. Matt says he's looking for the graphic. He'll put it up there at some point. But listen, hit us with some comments and questions about any QAnon stuff. You want to pick Smart Mark's brain, you can ask me about that doc or universal basic income or not. That's fine. Or just anything else. Hit us with it. And Matt,
I do want to say, you were talking about to look for comments, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
You keep saying I like talking about it, and I don't. But it's like it is terrible. But it's been like we talked about it before we came on the show. That like I searched back through like my own social media posts to see the first time I talked about it, and it was like the middle of 2018. And the first post was like, "Someone should pay attention to this. It seems pretty bad." And 2.5 years later, people are finally starting to, and it's like, oh fuck, I hate the fact that I was right, but this is ridiculous. And
yeah. I mean, I guess you're right. Whenever I say it's one of your favorite subjects, it makes it sound like you take pleasure in its existence and making fun of it. And yeah, I know that's not the case, but you're you're real up on it. You're real up on the Q stuff. So that's all I mean. But yeah, shit's wild, buddy. Shit's wild.
It's the most important non-pandemic news story, man. It's like 20-30% of America is going down this rabbit hole that you can't have that many people crazy in one country. It doesn't work that way.
Mark, you're a hip hop head. You might know what this person's talking about. I apologize already. Your comment flew by. I missed the name, but I saw the comment. Somebody said Q-Tip changed his name years ago. He saw this coming. What do you know about that, Mark? Anything? You know what they're talking about?
I did not. I didn't know Q-Tip changed his name. Was it before or after Fife Dog died? Yeah, I didn't know that. I do know that like Q-Tip's Muslim, which not a lot of people know. There's a lot of Ice Cube's Muslims, a bunch of Muslim rappers that don't talk about it, which could have they could have been social outreach years ago. Stop prejudice.
And Enemy Anemone says just the Q-Tip. That's a dick joke, Mark, hitting us with the dick jokes there.
Love it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Tina Blake says Q is the real hoax. Throw it up whenever, Mark, if you got it. Or Matt, sorry. Yeah, there it is. Inherent Good, like I said. Available today on all the major streaming platforms and whatnot. So check it out if you feel so inclined. We would appreciate it. A labor of love, that damn thing. It was years in the making. So I hope you guys like it. Harry Zoo says Q-Tip converted to Islam in the mid '90s. So we're just on a Q-Tip run here. That's fun. Hey, Mitch Lip or Mish Lip, maybe Michigan Lip, I don't know, says, what's your favorite Tendies dipping sauce, Mark? Now that's a good question. That's pertinent.
Barbecue, man. Love some barbecue.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I would if I'm picking one, I'm picking ranch. Me personally, that's how that's my white trashness. Jennifer D. Penley says, "What would you like to see the intelligence community do to reassure us that they are actually taking this seriously?" Mark,
I'm not very trustful of the American intelligence community in general. My joke earlier about if they're not in control of it, they're irresponsible, they're incompetent. It's just the acknowledgement that like if you have this standing army of maniacs you can send to harass anyone, it seems like something a nation state would want to grab a hold of. I would prefer them grab a hold of the account and delete it, but I don't think that's what they would do, and because I'm not, I wasn't born yesterday.
well, how do you? I mean, not what. All right. Well, it's Daniel Gaither says, "What does Smart Mark think we could do to pull relatives from the Q pit?"
I was thinking about it while we're talking to them. Like, there's a QAnon casualties Reddit thread that's just fucking heartbreaking. And like the funny part of it, we've been exchanging screen grabs of people being like, yeah, I can't believe I lost relatives over this, and nothing Q predicted came true. And you're like, okay, well, maybe we'll realize you're wrong and call up your mom and say you're sorry for ruining Thanksgiving. That's what that do that. Family will forgive you. But the other side of it, where you see people who are like, I lost my wife to Q, and I love her, but I can't have her be around my kids because she's bringing them into this world, and so people are getting divorced over it, and losing brothers and sisters, and it's sad. I don't know. I guess you do what you do with a relative who has any problem, is you tell them you love them and you care about them, and whenever they want help, you'll give it to them. But
yeah, I guess I'm lucky so far, because that's another thing. It's related to what I was saying earlier to them. Like, I have a lot of really good friends. One of them is Corey Ryan Forster, senior Georgia correspondent. You guys know him. You love him. That are susceptible to conspiracy theories, that like will openly admit, like, I can get into conspiracy theories, right? Corey's not the only one. I got a lot of really close buddies that are into conspiracy theories. And so far, literally, that's what makes it so wild to me too, is because even these guys who kind of like conspiracy theories or whatever, they all also are laughing at Q or talking about how ridiculous it is. But at the same time, I see normal people who don't fuck with conspiracy theories at all getting fully wrapped up into it. It's just a weird thing, man. But I want to so Mandy in Seattle says, how come nobody ever mentions Q and Russia together? Russia's got to be fully on board with this Q shit, right? They have to be. It would make so much sense for them.
There's a being a free society, as it were, where America's susceptible to all kinds of asymmetrical attacks. Like Other people can come into our planes and fly into our buildings because we have freedom of travel and don't have at that point didn't have heavily militarized airports, and they don't have a corresponding target for us to bomb in Afghanistan. We're just open to that. That's just the price we pay for being wealthy and free, right? The same thing goes with like we can't do. We have Voice of America and we drop literature in Russia and we support like pro-democracy magazines and stuff there, but we can't really do stuff wide on their internet because their internet's not free and it's closed. Like there's just stuff they can do to us that we can't do to them. The solution to this is not war with Russia. It's better media literacy. Like we are doing this to ourselves by being hateful and stupid. Now, it doesn't mean we should welcome Russia fucking around in our information ecosystem. Our government should be doing stuff to try to stop it or try to like put pressure on them to stop it. But Russia didn't storm the Capitol, man. That was a bunch of our own maniacs.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, listen, we're pretty much out of time. We got one last one here. Cassie Hicks says, what was the name of the documentary about basic income, Trey? Thank you. It's called Inherent Good. Inherent Good. There you go. There you see it. And yeah, you can find it on any of the platforms. I hope you check it out. Thank you all very much for joining us. We'll be back in 48 hours. See what the hell's going on Thursday right here on Evening Skews. I'm Trey. That's Mark. Thank you all for joining us.